sister and I needed to go to Walmart to pick our mom up some groceries. We were in the freezer aisle when I looked up and noticed a man staring at me. Me being me, I said, "That man must think I'm cute because he won't quit staring at me." We didn't think much else of it. We continued our shopping when I noticed him staring at me again, this time in a different aisle. I was starting to get creeped out, and I suggested to my sister that we try going into a completely different part of the store. We went into the women's clothing and, surprisingly, he followed, even though it was unlikely that he had any business there. Just to be sure we weren't overthinking things, we headed to the electronics, and sure enough, he followed still. Realizing how scary this had become, we decided to hurry up, check out, and leave the store. We headed for the doors, and the coast looked clear, but when I turned my head right as we were about to exit the store, there he was. He came out of the bathroom right in front of where we checked out. The hairs stood tall on my neck, and shivers ran down my spine. I knew he saw me, so we hurried to our car and put our groceries away. Of course, his vehicle was parked a few spots away from ours. We just sat in the car with the doors locked, trembling, but eventually, we put ourselves together and decided to leave, and when we did, he began backing out as well. He was obviously following us. We parked in a different spot, and sure enough, he did too. I'd never been more terrified in my entire life. My heart raced so fast I could barely think. I immediately suggested to my sister that we maneuver through one of the parking lots to get to the main road a different way. The man tried to get on our tail, but thankfully, he got stuck behind a line of traffic waiting to leave Walmart while we quickly sped off. I'm not sure what his true intentions were, but I was later told how popular human trafficking was in that area. I can't tell what could have happened had he met us. For all I know, he could have been a part of a larger network of never-do-goods, or maybe something else. But that's in the past now. All I can say is, it was a terrifying encounter, and I don't hope to experience such a thing ever again. This happened while I worked at Walmart in Chesapeake, Virginia. It was a Tuesday night, and employees had gathered for a routine meeting at the store. Suddenly, we heard gunshots, and the whole store was thrown into commotion. At that moment, the break room door burst open, and we found ourselves face to face with a gunman. My heart froze with panic, and my entire body went numb. He raised his gun, pointed it at a colleague who was sitting at the table in front of me, and shot her in the head. He then shot the girls who were sitting in front of her. The gunman briefly left the room while everyone ran for their lives. Everyone scrambled in different directions, leaping on themselves in a blind frenzy and screaming at the top of their voices. My instincts told me to go outside, but I was too terrified to move. Instead, I hid under the table where only me and two other girls remained in the room. Suddenly, the gunman returned, and without warning, he shot the first girl and burst out laughing. Then he came to me and the second girl. My life flashed right in front of me. I closed my eyes for a minute, and he opened fire. I reopened my eyes, and the gun was pointed at me. I started sobbing. He looked at me and told me to get out from under the table. So I did, and then he took the gun out of my face and was pointing it at the ceiling when he said, "Jesse, go home." As I shakily walked out, I noticed he was pointing people out. He went straight toward the other managers. That was only my 5th day at work, but I knew it would be my last. I will never go back to that store again. This happened to me at a Walmart in East Texas. I had just driven into the parking lot when I noticed a man walking by slowly, staring intently into my vehicle through the windows. His expression downright creeped me out. However, I proceeded into the store. Once inside, I walked directly to the shampoo aisle, and it wasn't long before I saw someone else walking down that aisle. I scooted closer to the aisle in order to give us plenty of space, but then the person stopped several feet away from me. When I looked around, I realized it was the same man I had seen looking inside my vehicle in the parking lot. Although I didn't want to overreact, I started keeping a closer eye on him. I continued to stare at the shampoo on the shelves when the man wandered to where I was and knelt down. He pretended to be staring at the shampoo on the bottom shelf. However, I quickly noticed that he had his phone face up on his thigh with the camera open and trying to position the angle so he could see up my skirt. Once I fully realized what was happening, I immediately left the aisle and headed over to the garden department to let an employee know about him. While we were speaking, the man who'd been stalking me entered the garden area, and we noticed he was looking down the aisles. The manager, along with 2 other Walmart employees, started walking down the aisles in an effort to interact with this man. The moment the man realized they were seeking to connect with him, he immediately set down whatever item he'd been holding and walked directly out of the store to his vehicle. Once the police were called, the situation became even more alarming. After the man left, the Walmart manager recommended that I call the police to report the situation. Using the surveillance footage, the police were able to identify the man who was confirmed to be a serial offender in this way. A look at the photos and videos on his phone revealed he'd done this same violating thing he'd sought to do to me. Consequently, he was charged. I'm just grateful that I was able to see what he was doing on time and take the necessary steps to keep myself safe. My actions may have also prevented this same thing from happening to other East Texas women, but at the same time, I can't help feeling bad for the women who had unknowingly fallen victim to this monstrous act of violation. It was around 7 o'clock in the evening when my young daughter and I went to the Walmart in Lindale to do some shopping. I noticed a man who seemed to be following us around the store. At first, I wasn't overly concerned about it, but then as time passed, I noticed that even after an hour, the man was always between 2 to 3 feet away from us. Although the man never made eye contact, I noticed he kept his eye on us. As the shopping trip continued, I watched as the man followed us from the grocery store side of the store, over to the bathroom area, over to the pharmacy, and then back to the grocery side of the store. The most unsettling part of this whole episode was the man had no shopping basket with him and never picked up any items. It was at this point that I began to have a very strong intuition that something was just not right. I had this conviction that the man might possibly have malicious intentions, or at the very least, he clearly seemed to be following us. I asked my daughter to keep close and to hold my hand as we finished our shopping trip, and especially as we left the store, where I fully expected to see the man waiting for us. I did not know what the man wanted from us, but I wasn't ready to risk losing my daughter or any other surprise he must have had under his sleeves. Back when I worked at Walmart, I used to stock the crafts section on overnights. I'm introverted, and I can say I'm kind of an awkward person, so no human contact was great for me. On one of my shifts, this old guy on a scooter insisted on sitting in my aisle for hours. He wasn't doing anything. He just sat there staring at the needles. It was weird, and as a defense, I kept my safe distance. Well, I stocked everything I could, but finally, I got to the inevitable part. I needed him to move. And honestly, I was a little creeped out at this point. Anyway, I mentioned it to my manager on the way to lunch. After lunch, the man was gone. Turns out he had died there like 5 hours ago.